That's carried?
Carried.
Carried. All right, thank you. So that brings us to our main item here. Transit Services Department, Stage 2 Light Rail Transit Project.
Merci beaucoup, Vice Chair Curry. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be here at today's Light Rail Subcommittee meeting. While there has been a lot of focus on lines 2 and 4 over the last few months, work on the East and West extensions has not stopped. Today, I'm joined by members of the Rail Construction Program team to provide an update to the O-Train extension projects on the East-West lines. In the East, we began vehicle testing earlier this year, and since then, we have successfully expanded testing from Blair Station to Trim Station. This testing will continue into the new year and advance the project forward. In the West, the first train was delivered to the light maintenance and storage facility earlier in the fall, and before the end of the year, we are expecting 2 additional vehicles. This milestone marks the beginning of an exciting time as we prepare to start testing vehicles on a portion of the O-Train West extension. Next slide, please. Before I passed the presentation over to Richard, I wanted to provide you with a status update on the O-Train South extension. Since trial running completed at the end of October, our focus has been working towards substantial completion. As we shared earlier in the week, I'm very happy that substantial completion has now been achieved. Our focus is now on final readiness. This is key for TRANSPO and Transit Next teams to ensure that we are all ready for customers. One of the activities for final readiness is happening tomorrow, when we will host a dress rehearsal that simulates in-service conditions with passengers. This will allow us to monitor the system while it's being used by a large group of people who have not been on lines 2 and 4 before. Our team will carefully review the results and lessons learned and enhance our operations where possible. My team and I will be hosting a technical briefing on December 6th, where we will update you on these findings, as well as share plans for opening lines 2 and 4. The major milestone of achieving substantial completion and the positive progress we have made toward opening represent the exceptional hard work of our teams over the last 4 years. I'm very proud of the contributions from so many people who have made this a reality. Before I hand this over to Richard Holder, Director of our Rail Construction Program, I want to thank Jocelyn Daigle, our Manager of Construction Management, who will present today the O-Train and East Extension, and Michael Bartlett, our Manager of Rail Infrastructure, who will present the O-Train West Extension. Merci beaucoup. Je passe maintenant la parole à Richard.
Merci René. Je suis très content d'être ici avec vous.
I'm very happy to be here with you to give you an update on progress of our teams with the phase 2.
Significant progress over the last few weeks. And as René mentioned, we will provide more updates at our technical briefing on lines 2 and 4 next week. At a high level, I will cover some milestones we have reached on the O-Train South extension. We saw strong results during trial running, and Transit Next completed this on October the 27th, achieving a 99.5% 14-day rolling average, exceeding the 98.5% target. As we shared in our memo earlier this week, after a thorough and detailed process, the independent certifier issued a substantial completion certificate on November the 26th. This means that all major project elements have been met. A small update from what you see on the slides. Yesterday, we received the Certificate of Fitness from the Canadian Transportation Agency. Again, we will provide more information at the technical briefing next week on the safety requirements for our customers. Staff have also been working with emergency services teams to prepare for revenue service. An integrated full-scale exercise took place earlier in the week at the Dow's Lake Tunnel. This important work allows emergency responders to build on their knowledge and training for the system and its many safety features. In the last few weeks, we have also made progress on finalizing some minor construction works, including final upgrades to the Leitrim and Bowesville Park and Ride, as well as the Limebank bus loop. We have also completed the Gilligan and Leitrim intersection and activated the signalized pedestrian crossings at Gladstone and at Limebank Main Street, which are important links for active transportation. In terms of the path to revenue service, all of these major milestones bring us one step closer to opening lines 2 and 4 for customers. However, there is still some work that needs to be completed. Transit Next needs to submit the final safety case and final report from the independent safety assessor. Once this is done, the city's independent safety auditor will provide a statement indicating that all safety requirements in the project agreement have been met and that there are no objections to the start of passenger service. For our team, the focus is now on final readiness activities. These include a dress rehearsal on November the 30th with OC TRANSPO staff and their families. We will also be doing additional drills, exercises, and scenarios, including monitoring system reliability during winter conditions, continuing training for rail operators, and rolling out customer communications. All this work is essential and cannot be rushed. It will help ensure that the system and our staff are ready and well prepared to welcome customers. Next slide, please. Following revenue service, Transit Next and our team will continue to work on some minor final construction activities. These include items like the work on the pedestrianized signalized crossings at multi-use pathways, switch enhancements at Gladstone to improve operations, modifications to the ringing volume of the train bells at stations, the installation of a hotbox detection system, final landscaping and tree planting, and other minor work. As Renee mentioned, we will provide more details on our progress on all these activities towards opening lines 2 and 4 at the technical briefing on December the 6th. Before I hand it over to Jocelyn Daigle, who will provide an update on the East Extension, I want to take a moment to say a huge thank you and congratulations to the team for achieving substantial completion. We would not be able to accomplish this and all the other major milestones without your hard work and commitment to the success of the project. Your long hours, attention to detail, and the collaboration between teams and working groups made it possible to get us to this point. I will now hand over to Jocelyn. Thank you.
Merci René, merci Richard, surtout pour ces gentilles paroles.
Thank you so much for your kind words. As for the East Extension, the work is still progressing very well. I'll start with a general overview before going through the slides.
Eastworks on the Confederation Line construction continues to advance extremely well. I'll give a brief overview of where we are at this point in the project before we pass through the individual slides. So in the east, the guideway itself is complete. Construction is complete, so that includes underground infrastructure, track works, the overhead catenary system. At this point, guideway works are really limited to just deficiency closeout. As well, all traction power substations have been energized. We have active train testing taking place along the full alignment, so from Montreal through to Trim and back. And so in next year, we will be moving into operator training. On the systems side, the physical construction, or what we refer to as sticks and bricks, is really complete at this point. Works are now mainly focused on the systems works or the testing and commissioning. And for this reason, a lot of the current activities taking place are more or less behind closed doors. So literally in communication rooms or server rooms and less obvious from the outside. Again, within the realm of stations, we have Ottawa Fire Services who have been out on site to start our fire protection testing at various stations. TSSA testing is ongoing for the elevators and escalators across the alignment. All fare gates have been installed and the ticket vending machines are slowly being installed along the line. And now as for occupancy permits for buildings, we don't have them in hand today. They can't be obtained until all of the systems, the fire life critical systems, so sprinklers and fire alarms, for example, are fully tested, fully commissioned and integrated all the way to hand-ed. So that will move into the start of next year. And after that's complete, we'll be able to get our occupancy permits in hand. So now the majority of the slides that we'll be going through will be focusing on an update on the civil works side. That's really where you can see the physical progress and appreciate the works taken place since our last subcommittee meeting together. And again, we'll do a focus on really the mobility impacts as well, because that's definitely a public-facing element that we want to touch on today. Donc, c'est pour ça que la présentation dans l'Est
This is
va
why the
sûrement se
presentation on the east side will focus on the civil work and road impact. You can appreciate all the progress that were done since our last meeting.
We'll start at Montreal Station and we'll move our way eastwards. So I love this photo of Montreal where we can see the station itself in the center of a major highway. Again, that station is supported on a new bridge that we built for that purpose, along with new bridges supporting the realigned 174, both eastbound and westbound directions. We also have the roadworks. So at this point for Montreal Road, we are in the final alignment. There are still some paving works that remain at the west end of sort of this picture. And so that would be final paving or top lift paving, I should say, west of the Montreal on and off westbound ramp towards Shefford. So those will be taking place in the spring, as well in sort of the bottom left-hand corner of the photo. We can see the pond that is currently active and is really in use on an as-needed basis. We can move on to our next slide. So now inside Montreal Station on the left-hand side, we see the platform where customers will be able to jump on and off trains once in service. On the right-hand side, it's a little bit hard to see in the photo, but deep into the photo, the fare gates are installed and being commissioned. We also have the ticket vending machines. So there are two actual machines that have been delivered to site being stored within the stations that will be installed in that white cabinet we see on the left-hand side of the photo. If we move to the next slide. So Jeanne d'Arc Station. So here on the civil side, we've been implementing some connectivity enhancements, as well as some rehabilitation works along the bridge itself and the road. So this includes, wider sidewalks and a new map. They're really taking shape, as you can see from the photo here. As far as the traffic mobility side, traffic is currently on the two outermost lanes, while the innermost lanes are reserved for some of the final flat works, which are median related. So a curb that comes along the median there. By the end of this year, all 4 lanes will be open at the bridge location. It is important to note that at the north end of the project, we have the OC Roundabout project that we are coordinating with closely, and that project does involve a lane reduction as you head northwards. We can move to the next slide. And so now for Convent Glen, on the left-hand side, we can see that again, as far as civil works go, we've advanced very well. Some of the remaining sidewalks are on the northwest quadrant. The reason that they haven't been placed as of yet is that we have a hydro pole in conflict, and we're working around that. And so for this reason, civil works will continue into next year. I do want to point out as well that we want to prioritize access to Taffy Lane over the Christmas period. So by the end of today, we will have 2 northbound lanes open. Currently, there is only 1, along with 1 southbound lane, and that will be in place. Those lanes will be open through December, and then works will resume early next year. And now if we move, on the right-hand side of the photo, I should have mentioned, if we can go back quickly. We have just a nice view of the station where it's really taking shape. We have the elevator shroud on the left, on the right where it's sort of the white paneling. That's where our ticket vending machines will be installed. And again, the fare gates are already installed as you advance through the entranceway. So next slide, please. So first, Place d'Orléans Station, here again, sort of the station's work is really focused around the system, the testing, commissioning, installing devices, including cameras, passenger information display systems, that type of device. On the sort of outset, I just did want to highlight how complex the station is. So on the left-hand side, we can see the left-hand photo rather on the bottom, that is the South Station. In the middle there is what we call the transfer building. So that is the LRT station that's been built integral or integrated with the existing bus station, all within an active bus loop. And then if we move over to the right-hand side of the photo, you can see how that extends into the median where we have an east and a west station. And in general, at this location, again, to highlight the complexity, we have 3 sets of elevators, 4 sets of fare gates, and 4 sets of ticket vending machines, just to touch on some of the elements. If we move on to trim. So trim, if we start on the left-hand side, again, to give a view from the civil perspective, in the eastbound direction on the 174 here, we have final realigned lanes with final pavement. We have those white lines, which are the traffic delineator warning strips, kind of warning motorists to slow down as you head eastwards, you approach the intersection and slower speeds. As far as the park and ride goes and the bus loop, we have that new trim bus loop that has been constructed and put in service. And within the park and ride itself, we have roughly 40% of the parking spots were in use now. And park and ride works will continue into the next year. That includes underground works and the granular and pavement activities. On the right-hand side, this is just a nice view to show us that at this point, or this location rather, we have final 174 alignment along with paving. So in the eastbound direction, we have final 174 from Champlain eastwards. And in the westbound direction, we have final 174 from Trim Road eastwards. So you can see at that location some of the final paving work, signalized crossing that's been activated. And now if we move on to the next slide, we did want to touch on as well full-scale emergency activity or exercise rather that took place that was incredibly successful. So this was on our Montreal Road flyover, what we call Bridge 4. The exercise was done to validate the operational readiness of various emergency service groups. So Ottawa Police, Ottawa Fire, paramedics, OC TRANSPO Special Constables Unit. It was a very sort of complex activity that was also very well executed and proven successful as far as people's response, the various groups. So the scenario was simulating a power outage that caused the train to stop and be immobilized on this structure. So all responders attended to the incident to evacuate passengers, and ultimately the event was considered a success. If we move on to the next slide, we do want to do a touch on the milestones, the construction milestones from this year. So it's been a very big year. We've completed the guideway as mentioned, so that includes track work and OCS. We've undergone train testing, which is ongoing along the complete alignment. So from Blair out to Trim, we have the Trim bus loop, which has been complete as in operation. Montreal Road is in final alignment. Again, we have some final top lift paving to come in the westbound direction on the west side. On the 174, we have done some final alignment as mentioned in certain areas where we were able to, while we have BRT lanes still operational, and those are highlighted there. We can move to our next slide. And so upcoming east activities will really have a big start of next year as we continue works through to substantial completion. So we'll continue our train testing and our operator training will begin in the new year. So this is Blair Station eastwards out to Trim. We will complete the remaining areas of the Trim Park and Ride in Q2. By Q2 as well, we will be paving Jeanne d'Arc Boulevard. And in that same quarter, we'll be working to get all of our station occupancy permits in hand. We did want to highlight that after the project itself, the line is operational, we do have works that remain. So these are considered remaining works, mainly centered around the 174 highway, which will involve removal of the BRT lanes and realignment and final paving. And again, those activities can only take place once our line is operational, as we need the BRT up until then. And so on the traffic mobility side, we did want to take some time to go through each of the key areas in the east. So if we start with the 174, we will have lane and ramp closures that will continue as required. In general, we can expect closures for the next 3 weeks, taking us through to December 22nd. There will be a full shutdown in the east for a 2-week period over the Christmas holidays. So there won't be any road closures taking place during that time. And generally speaking, there will be limited closures over the winter, and then we will see a ramp up in the spring as works continue and weather allows us to pick up where we left off this year. As mentioned previously, we want to really reiterate that there's that additional paving and highway works to be completed post substantial completion that we can expect sort of on the back half of next year, 2025. If we move through to Montreal Road, so again, we are in a current configuration, which we will maintain through the winter. In the spring of next year, we will continue that final top lift paving west of the 174. And we can also, similar to the final 174 works that will take place post substantial completion, we can expect some ramp work at that time as well, because by removing the BRT lanes, that will also remove the BRT lanes that continue through the ramps at that area. At Jeanne d'Arc, we did want to mention, as touched on earlier, that by the end of this year, we will have all lanes open on the bridge. Again, there's the roundabout works that are just north of that, but the bridge itself will have all lanes opened by the end of the year, and that configuration will be maintained through the winter. And then just to keep in mind that next year we will continue to have closures, so lane closures as well as off-peak full closures, to be able to complete the remaining scopes of the rehabilitation and active transportation enhancement project. And now if we go to the next slide, our remaining two areas to focus on our mobility impacts, we have Orleans. Again, by end of day today, we'll have 3 lanes open. So a second northbound lane will be open to traffic, again, really to allow, among others, traffic to Taffy Lane for the Christmas period. And we will go down again to 2 lanes in early next year, though, to complete our works. And there'll be, in general, some long-term lane closures to follow next year for works. Champlain Street, we currently have a long-term closure in the southbound direction, which allows us to get our station works completed. This will be maintained over the winter. We do want to highlight as well that next year we can expect some works at the intersection of Champlain and Place d'Orleans, as there'll be some works taking place around there in the spring. So just a general note that mobility impacts will stabilize over the winter, and then we can just expect a ramp up in the spring when weather allows us to really continue with our civil works on the project. There will be an update to the overall project schedule in early 2025 in a follow-up session. So thank you. I will pass you to my colleague, Michael Bartlett, who will go through the update in the West Confederation line.
Thanks, Jocelyn. I'm pleased to be here today to give you guys the update on the Western Extension as part of the Confederation line. So we'll just jump into our first slide here. So heading west as part of stage 2, our first station is Westboro Station. It's an existing bus facility that we're converting down in the trench, the guideway to the LRT. I want to direct your attention to the large crane that we have here as part of this. So what we've done here is we've currently flown in some precast panels as part of the concourse over the guideway. The contractor elected to go this way to in turn prevent the use of formwork, time saving, as well as allow the equipment and operations to continue through of building out the guideway underneath. So we didn't have those blockages as part of this. So they did that, which helped us, especially since Westboro is the last station to kind of get up and going as part of the program. On to the next slide, please. So a little bit more as we get into the station itself, you can see the formwork for the staircases have been formulated. We have steel in there. The pours are going to go as part of that for the concrete. We've started to erect the steel on the left-hand side. You can see which faces Scott Street. This will be our entrance housing, which will have our ticket vending machines, our fare gates, etc. So we'll continue working on erecting the steel and following that guideway work underneath. Next slide, please. So continuing west, we move on to Kitchissippi Station. The steel and concrete for the station has all been completed at this time. Right now, we're working on the finalization details for the roofing of the structure, the interior ceiling of the concourse level. We're also working on some outside cladding on the southern emergency buildings. You can see there's a little bit of yellow there. We're just putting the cladding on those. Working on some glazing and finalizing some of the electrical and mechanical works at this station. Once those works have been done for the electrical and mechanical, then we'll start some of the testing and commissioning as part of this station. Next slide, please. I want to give you a quick update here related to the cut and cover progress of our tunnel, the Parkway Tunnel itself. So back in August, we finished the last pour that was down by Lincoln Field Station. We've since backfilled the entire tunnel as a whole. We're starting to do the interior outfitting of the tunnel as we speak. That includes the concrete plinths, the pulling of the rails. You can kind of see some of that work at the portal there. We've also now started to work on the dry fire line system, and we're continuing with some of the system works in the tunnel itself. Just want to direct your attention to the left-hand side there, Kitchissippi McCann Parkway, currently in the temporary configuration. In 2025, we're going to look to move that into the ultimate configuration. So there'll be a lot of work there to move that back over in place. Next slide, please. So continuing with our update on the tunnel, as you can see, the tunnel in the area between New Orchard and Sherbourne Station. Sherbourne Station is the far station at the top of the photo. We're looking east here as part of this. As you can see, our tunnel has been backfilled in full here as part of this. I want to touch upon Richmond Road Revitalization Project here as we speak, as you can see here. As part of these works, there's a lot of work to be done. Brand new water mains, storm sewers, sanitary systems, revitalization of the roadway. We're going to include pedestrian cycling network as part of this. Byron Linear Park is going to get a facelift as well as part of this. So it's very exciting. In 2025, you're going to see a lot of this work come into fruition. Next slide, please. So moving back into our eastern station in the Parkway Tunnel, Sherbourne Station. What we have here is underneath the actual station concourse level, we have our TPSS underneath that. Some of the interior works along that is being completed as we speak, such as insulation and drywall in that area. We also have a lot of mechanical and electrical work going on the interior concourse level and lower platform level as we speak. Next slide, please. Moving to our western station within the Parkway Tunnel is New Orchard Station. We have mechanical and electrical work going on similarly here as part of these station works and some exterior building cladding. As you can see on the left side, the yellow insulation there, we're going to cover that up with the building cladding. We thought we'd jump in and show you guys some photos related to what it looks like at the platform level and from the concourse. So if we jump to the next slide, you get a better kind of visual of what the actual user interface will be when they're down there on the platform. So the left is Sherbourne Station. So just flagging that both the stations for Sherbourne and New Orchard are center platform stations. The trains will be running on the outside as part of this. You'll see on the left-hand photo, the center spine steel structure through there. We'll have a roof covering on top of that to protect users from the elements when they're waiting for the trains. Next slide, please. Some other components of the mechanical and electrical rooms as part of Sherbourne and New Orchard Station. So we're currently working on the finalization of roughing these out. So insulation, drywall, some electrical, mechanical as part of this will be underway currently and will continue to progress into 2025. Next slide, please. Lincoln Field Station, located just north of Carling Avenue. On the left-hand side is the existing Lincoln Fields bus rapid transit system and loop. Ultimately, we will be taking that down and we'll be transporting it over to the east. So the eastern location will be our new rapid transit system bus loop component interfacing with the LRT station. The top right location is the bus operator building that's currently enclosed. We have testing and commissioning that's currently ongoing with it. In the actual LRT station itself, we're currently working on the fare gates and ticket vending machines. It's one of our mostly advanced station to date in the West to date. Next slide, please. So this photo is looking south of Carling Avenue towards Connaught Flyover, which is in the far top of the photo. Some things to point out as part of this photo itself. So we have Woodruff High School on the left-hand side of the photo. We have the Woodruff pedestrian overpass structure, which is currently open to the public and in use. On the right-hand side, we have the existing bus rapid transit system detour currently in place that allows our flow of patrons from Lincoln Fields up to Iris and to Algonquin. And while we're building the actual track system for our extensions into Moody as well as into Algonquin Station. So you'll see 4 tracks here as part of this. This is where the actual split occurs, where we head to Algonquin and to Moody. And the flyover allows the bus rapid transit system to actually operate while we're doing construction. And the flyover also crosses Pinecrest Creek as well. Remaining works that are going to be in this area. So we have OCS works that need to be completed as part of this. So that will continue into 2025. And then in the near future, we'll be removing the bus rapid transit system as part of that and be covering it up with landscaping. It'll be back to kind of a more greened up area, landscape, trees, etc. as part of it. Next slide, please. An overview of Irish Station. So one of our most completed stations to date, a little simpler than Lincoln Fields, but as you can see here, a lot of it is completed and intact. A little bit of glazing still left on the rooftop to be done. We have the realigned Pinecrest Creek on the left-hand side of the station in this area. Some more cleanup works to be done as part of that in 2025. There will also be a multi-use pathway connection that'll be on the left-hand side of the station. So where the white vehicle is currently shown, we will have a multi-use pathway that runs north and south with a connection up to Iris Road itself. Jumping into Iris Station itself on the next slide, you'll see a platform view. So we have the edge platform that's been completed. That's the yellow component on the platform. We're also working on the testing and commissioning within the background of these stations. And in early 2025, we'll look to pull the OCS right through the station itself, as well as put up the intertrack guideway barrier, which will deter users from crossing from one platform to the other on the guideway itself. Next slide, please. Continuing south to our last station is Algonquin Station. So the big head house on the south end, you can see there. So the bus transitway users could get off and come in through this building facility. You have two options as part of it. You can drop down into the actual LRT station itself, or you can come up and connect through the actual new pedestrian overpass structure, which connects into the Algonquin Station itself. Ongoing works related to the pedestrian overpass right now. We're working on some mechanical electrical components within it. We're finalizing some painting touch-ups. Following that, we'll be putting glazing on the outside of the pedestrian bridge structure itself. If we jump into the next slide, we'll get a little bit more of a look inside the actual building itself. So what we have here on the left-hand side is the elevator housing and shroud. So that has been, panels are all in place now, post this photo. We're currently working on the doors, some overhead signage. The escalator, as you can see in here, is still in construction mode. And we're also working on some testing and commissioning of the components that are currently in place. Next slide, please. So while we're in the southern leg, we thought it'd be nice to touch upon the Pinecrest Stormwater Management Facility. So what we have here is basically the day before we started construction as part of this, big open area with a single multi-use pathway. Pinecrest Creek is hidden behind those on Baseline Road, just on the right-hand side there where the trees are. That's the start of where Pinecrest Creek starts. So we have an underground sewer system that outlets between some of those buildings and then heads to, I would say, the southeast here in the photo. It's actually west. But that's where Pinecrest Creek ultimately starts, slides underneath Woodruff, and then heads north towards Irish Station. As part of this, what we looked to do in our project was to actually provide a control to the stormwater that's there as part of this. So we'll jump into the next photo, which I can explain a little better some of the details. This is what it looks like today. So what we've done is we've taken this major storm sewer catchment area that used to come through a pipe and into a creek uncontrolled. And now we've put it into a three-celled stormwater management facility, as part of that. Where now we can control the flows that come through Pinecrest Creek. We now control the water. We actually now have time to let the particles settle within the pond itself, which we can clean out. The amount of pathway networks within this now is right throughout, so any entity, parties that want to go east, west, north, south have the ability to do so. And we also provided a lookout on the left-hand side at cell 2, where with benches, so users can go there, take a rest, enjoy the views, and relax. So it's a really nice change to what we've done as part of this, and a huge success. And I think it was worth noting as part of our program. Next slide, please. So continuing west now towards Mooney, we hit Queensview Station. So right now, a lot of the work is on the interior side as part of this. So we're working on the ceiling within the concourse levels and the elevator installation as part of it. We're working on some mechanical electrical finishes on the interior. And we are also currently sandblasting the concourse level and platforms to get them ready for final finishing. Next slide, please. Moving on to Pinecrest Station. So the station itself, the elevator shroud is in the final stages as part of it. Mechanical electrical finishes within the station itself are currently underway. Working on some testing and commissioning as we speak. And just to the north, where you see a lot of the laydown area as part of it, this is where buses will be doing drop-off and interfacing with the LRT facility itself. So that work is going to commence in early 2025. So dropping down into Pinecrest Station to kind of give users a view of what it would be like when you're waiting for the train. So a couple things to note here. You can see the platform edging is in place. We have our direct fixation type of style rail through here, so concrete plinths. The rail have been completely pulled. We've got some of the platform lighting in place, some of the mechanical, electrical stuff you can see on the left-hand side, still working on that as part of it. The other thing to note is that large wall on the right-hand side, that actually helps to retain the actual north to west on-ramp from Pinecrest to the 417. So continuing west here to Bayshore Station, a lot of work has progressed as part of this. Currently, what we're working on is the emergency lighting and sump pump. So the emergency tunnel that's underneath the guideway, you'd recall from previous photos as part of the committee, now completely covered with guideway, track, etc. But within that emergency tunnel itself, we're currently working on the lighting and sump pump. We're also working on the fireproofing of the bridge structure connections that go up above the guideway and the bus rapid transit system. And we're currently working on finishing the exterior cladding of some of the buildings. Jumping into some of the stations here itself to take a look. So what you can see here on the left-hand side is we're getting ready for the topping slab as part of the actual LRT platform. And on the right-hand side is the interior building where your bus rapid transit exchange would happen. So you have an option here to come up. You can actually head south and head to the LRT building itself, or you can head up and you can head over to Bayshore Shopping Center as part of it. Works that are commencing as part of this right now. We're working on the drywall, finishing of the wall work on this, and then we'll move into the ceiling facade. Next slide, please. So moving to our last station in the west, Moody Station. As you can see here, the rail has been pulled through this station itself. OCS is to come next. Here we'll also have an intertrack barrier as well, similar to Iris, to deter patrons from jumping across on the guideway from one platform to the other. We have some water main works that are currently underway, which will cause some impacts to Corkstown. We'll talk about that during the traffic impacts. And on the left-hand side is where our bus facility ultimately will reside. So we'll be starting that in early 2025, and that will also have a passenger pickup drop-off location. Jumping into Moody Station itself, you can see it's pretty advanced. As part of it, a lot of the finishes are in place. We have room finishes that are completed. Our elevator is installed, the shroud around it, some minor cleanup with electrical work as part of it. Our platform cladding and platform topping slab, is completed. Next works that are going to be there's some minor electrical and mechanical works. And once that is completed, we'll continue on with some of the testing and commissioning of the actual station facility itself. Heading to the light maintenance and storage facility, the LMSF, you can see all the track is pulled to date. All the OCS is in place and energized. And we're looking to obviously start some testing here in the near future. As part of the next slide, so we announced in September that we had our first LRV delivery to the LMSF. So that's great because we've now assembled it and we can start testing soon as part of it. We're happy to say that we will be sending over 2 more LRVs, so we'll have 3 in total there before the end of December. And in turn, what this is going to do, it's going to help us to advance testing as part of our program. If we had to wait to get a train from Belfast all the way out to the LMSF, this would take a long while. So in turn, what we've done is to leapfrog some of the testing and advance that. We've provided 3 LRVs over at the LMSF. As things come online with energization, OCS, the guideway is available. We'll start pushing these LRVs out to Moody, Bayshore, Pinecrest, Queensview, and start that testing phase in advance of works if we're kind of stuck between the tunnels, still outfitting and stuff like that. This will help us test this system and get it up and going faster. So a huge advantage to part of the program. So next slide, please. I just want to highlight some of the construction milestones that I've already talked about. So we have the LRV delivery. As I said, we'll have 2 more before the end of December. The commissioning of the LMSF, and then as we indicated, we'll start pushing trains to the east. The revitalization of Richmond Road project, you know, it's going to get up and going. This next year is going to be a big one for us as part of 2025. So we look forward to getting a lot of those underground works in place and then moving into the surface works. And the completion of the cut and cover tunnel structure with the closure of the last pour, the backfilling of it. And as you can see here in the bottom right photo, this is what the tunnel actually looks like today. So we have our concrete plinths in, some rails in. We have our duct bank on the right-hand side where we'll start pulling some of the cables. And on the top right is our dry fire line. So it's pretty advanced and we continue to work through it. Noting the upcoming activities as part of our program. So once again, the 2 LRVs to be delivered in early December. Once again, Richmond Road Complete Streets, revitalization of it. Into 2025, the OCS and catenary system on the main line. 2025 completion of the track. So right now we are roughly 90% plus or minus of track pulled in the west. That's over basically 30 kilometers of track that's been pulled. So it's been a huge undertaking here and it's been pretty successful. We look forward to finishing that in early 2025. As indicated as part of the tunnel works, we're going to look to start pulling cables through the tunnel in Q2 of 2025. And in early 2025, the train testing at the LMSF, once we have the 3 LRVs up and running and start pushing that towards Bayshore, Moody, and Pinecrest. So I just wanted to touch quickly here upon some of the traffic and mobility impacts that we will see over the next couple of months. So as Jocelyn indicated, you know, as part of winter works coming forward, we're going to stabilize these works because a lot of these works are going to slow down as part of winter. But we do still have some work to be done here. Right now, we're still working to seek final approvals with some of the staging with the Ministry of Transportation Ontario. So those meetings are currently ongoing. We currently have impacts to the westbound off-ramp at Pinecrest and Greenbank. That's still in a temporary condition right now. We have one right lane that's currently closed. The westbound on-ramp from Greenbank northbound. So we have to build the north to west on-ramp. So that large wall I talked about at Pinecrest Station, that actual ramp structure isn't fully built to the width it needs to be. So we still have to expand that. So in turn, we're going to need to do a temporary closure, in 2025 to do so. So we'll close that down. We'll widen that out to the appropriate width. And that'll be the impact associated with that note. The 417 westbound on-ramp from Pinecrest southbound. So this is coming from the south on the ramp and then heading west. We're looking to open that soon. We're just going through the final details with the Ministry of Transportation of Ontario to get approvals and hoping to open that shortly. Moving on to the next interchange as part of Richmond Road. A lot of the closures associated with those impacts will be associated with the snow wall build that needs to be completed as part of it. So between Pinecrest and down to Bayshore Station, we have the LRT that actually drops down. So the guideway drops down underneath the Richmond Road off-ramp and the Richmond Road overpass. In order to protect the guideway, OCS, train, etc., from snow removal operation from Ministry of Transportation Ontario, we're going to put a snow wall up in place to essentially protect from snow being thrown onto the guideway as part of those works. So that's basically the major closure needed to be done. With the guideway advanced as much as it is, a lot of that work needs to be conducted from the actual 417 side of things. So we're working closely with the Ministry of Transportation on lane closures and impacts as part of that. So we're continuing to have meetings and we're hoping to get that sorted out shortly. At Moody Interchange, so the minor works impacts is part of that. So we have the remaining sidewalk component and pedestrian crossing on the west-hand side of the overpass structure as part of that. That's the impact that'll be done, and that will be in the spring of 2025. On local roadways as part of Ottawa proper, so Corkstown Road, as indicated, we have some intersection work to be done as part of this, and currently we're working on the water main upgrade in the area, so there'll be some minor impacts to that location there. Kitchissippi McCann, as I already talked about, we're going to put it in its ultimate configuration in 2025. Irish Street, there'll be a minor closure, ultimately just to put in a gas service for the Irish station itself. And on Richmond Road, as indicated, we have impacts that'll be to users as part of it to get a lot of those underground works, the new stormwater, sanitary and water main as part of that upgrades. So that'll be ongoing in 2025. So as indicated, we're looking to obviously stabilize the arrangement of the actual impacts during the winter of 2024-2025. And we'll look to provide an updated schedule in early 2025 of what all the works in the west is actually will look like to give you guys a better understanding. So for now, that concludes my update for the construction activities in the west. I'd like to now hand it back over to Renee Amlikar to discuss where we're going.
Merci beaucoup, Michael. Merci aussi à Jocelyn et Richard. Alors, je sais que
Thank
c'est
you,
beaucoup
everyone.
d'informations qu'on vous
I know
donne
it's a lot of
aujourd'hui,
information in a
mais
very
nos
short time,
informations vont revenir, so
but we
want
will
to
come back.
recap
Don't worry.
today what we can expect for the coming months. Next week, we will host a technical briefing to take a deep dive on lines 2 and 4 and provide an opening date for customers. Later this year, we will continue to make progress on trains being delivered. And in early next year, 2025, we will be back at committee, and my team and I will provide a detailed project schedule update on the east and west extensions. Train testing on the east extension will continue through this month of 2025. And through 2025, we will hit more milestones for sure for the east and the west extension. Following a period of stability over the winter, we said that I have to repeat it again, mobility impacts will ramp up starting in the spring of the 2025. We don't have choice. So that's conclude, Chair, my presentation. Merci beaucoup. On est disponible à répondre à vos questions.
We're ready to answer your
Thank you very
questions.
much. That was great. Questions from committee members? I'm sure there are some. Councillor Tierney.
Good morning, Acting Chair. First, I always learn things in these discussions. I learned before that the East End Extension wasn't going to open in time for Blues Fest at one of these meetings. Now I'm looking at the slide here. Can you did I see this right? Are we now talking the end of 2025 as the earliest possibility?
Thank you for the question. We do not want to provide a specific date that we are targeting, but we are looking at the middle of summer. So we're looking at a period between June, July, and August as the timing for the opening of the East Extension. So I don't believe that the slide deck indicated the end of 2025. I think it was a little earlier than that.
Yeah, it is slippage though. So I think it would behoove your organization to at least inform the East End councillors, because we've been trying to create buzz around some of the things. For example, Route 24. Again, kudos to OC for coming out to one of my community events, and thank you, Renee and the Owl and everybody else. But a lot of people are wondering when Route 24, which is contingent on the East End extension, is opening, and we've been saying, pretty much spring, summer now, as part of the, a year and a half later than what was originally anticipated. Now it's looking more towards the end of 2025. I think we need to have updates at minimum with the representatives from the East End, so they're aware of this. Would that not be fair? Even if you're not guaranteeing, I know we've heard this time and again. You don't want to guarantee. I get it. Nobody wants to put their butt in the line, but there's a lot of things contingent on it.
Thanks, Chair. I think it's fair to say for now, let's say Q3, Q4, and when we will come back at the beginning of next year, we will have a better view on things. And as my colleague just said, we will not provide a firm date because we don't know, right? And we don't want to rush anything. And we have been consequent with the Trail Line. It will be the same thing with the East. It will be the same thing with the West. But we'll keep you posted for sure. And for now, it's Q3, Q4, and we will continue to keep you posted. Okay.
So that's great. So that's fall winter 2025. What happens with Route 25 then? Because so we have the garbage bag signs throughout the community. We did a great job. My office put together a video that Councillor Dudas enjoys as well, because it helps explain visually how that route is going to really help out the community from our bus system that currently has a lot of issues. We're excited about that. Does that mean that is contingent as well on Route 24 updating now. You can see where I mean. There's a direct linkage here. If we keep delaying the East End line, what's going to happen with our spoken HUD systems and all the signs that are covered for our new ways to bus?
Chair, if we can come back, I'm not sure if Pat is on the line today, but we can come back to you, Councillor, at the end of the day for sure with an answer.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. Chair, just a couple quick other questions. I did put an inquiry in. I'm hearing about all these more road closures. We were kind of given the impression that a bulk of the major ones, especially at Montreal Road Station, are done. I just need to hear again that there's 4 lanes currently under the Montreal Road Bridge. There could be lane restrictions, but there will always be east-west movement under that bridge, as we talked about. And it will just be certain lanes that could close, but there will always be those lanes open during rush hour traffic.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. So we can absolutely commit that those lanes will be maintained through the winter, right? So the current lanes that are open will remain in place through the winter. In the spring, we have the top lift paving to do west side of the 174 on Montreal Road. What will determine the closures required is the exact limits of that work. And so what we can do is similarly in the start of next year, confirm what exactly the impacts would be. And then again, we want to remind that once we're in service and we're removing BRT lanes, that there will be impacts to the ramps, right? Because the ramps at Montreal have dedicated BRT lanes. And so there will be some adjustments to the ramps, and that will have to be at the later part of next year because that work can't take place until the line is in service.
Oh, so that's way out. So it could be like 2026 by the time that up. Okay. I had an inquiry.
Councillor, Renee has a comment as well.
Oh, sorry, I can't see. Yeah, absolutely.
I know you can't.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to let you know that Pat is here, so he will provide you an answer to
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Good morning, Mr.
Tim.
Who chair is? Well, I know it's Councillor Tierney. 2 questions that Councillor Tierney asked. Route 24, the new bus route, the new configuration of Route 24 will come into effect in April, as we previously discussed. And we also have a meeting coming up in the next few days with Councillor Tierney and Councillor Dudas to make a proposal on how we would deal with an issue of concern to Councillor Dudas for more direct service from Blackburn Hamlet to the train connection until the train extension opens. But in Councillor Tierney's ward, the 2-way service, the reconfigured service in Route 24 would begin in April with the connection to Blair Station, and then when the train extension opens, we also get the connection at Montreal Station.
Right.
Councillor Tierney also asked about Route 25, where the new configuration will be introduced in April 2025.
Great. Thanks, Chair. Don't worry, I'm watching my timer here. I still got a minute and 40 seconds. That being said, thank you, Pat. I appreciate that. I had an inquiry in about the number of closures in the east end of the city. Do you have the response to that handy? It was quite dramatic how many closures we've had in the east end over the last couple of years.
Thank you for the question, Chair. And so we are working on that motion. There's sort of 2 parts to that motion. There's the traffic closures piece, and there's also a question on the number of claims. So our group is working with the legal department, and we'll be able to provide sort of the complete response in next year.
Right. And if memory serves, the closures were, north of 300, 400, maybe close to it. Like, it was a tremendous number. We were all kind of shocked in our pre-discussions about it. So I look forward to that. Does that not seem a little high? Can't a lot of this work be bundled a little bit better? We're at the end of the road, but it really is frustrating for Councillor Dudas. I'm sure she'll have a couple of choice words as well, but it's just more concerning because I've seen a lot of damage, rim damage, a lot of accidents, and quite the large number of closures. So I hope to get that information back pretty soon. It should be pretty easy to get. It's been a while now, I think.
And so just to follow up on the question on, for sure, there has been a high number of closures, of traffic closures in the east. I do think we have to keep in mind that we have stations that sit in the middle of a highway. And so that inevitably means there needs to be traffic impacts. And we're also realigning a complete realignment of an existing highway. So that as well can't be done, unfortunately, without traffic impacts.
Yeah, and that's why I asked why for the claim data through the company, because it's also high. And I'm very worried if we're not bundling tighter, you're increasing the odds of injuries or fatalities if we don't really get control of what's happening. And we can blame the builder as much as we want, but at the end of the day, it falls in our lap. So anyway, I look forward to the responses to those. Shocked again about the timing, and thank you for the update today. Cheers.
Thank you. Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the whole team. Lots of information there. And I also want to give special thanks to the Stage 2 team that I work with that are on the ground, that are helping our office daily. And right now, I have to tell you, it's chaotic. We had an open house this week, and thank you to the team. They prepared a presentation, and it was very timely. The impact of Stage 2 in the West is enormous. It's absolutely enormous. It's jarring, and it's changing side streets into arterial roads in overnight, and with very little warning. This has been huge. The Wood Park community is suffering a great deal. They're also suffering because they're getting news about new developments coming as well. The impact is all over the place, but we need consideration to these communities. The safety is the top concern. I know the staff are trying to do their best at the ground level. The latest ask is to get a speed board on Byron. It's needed when a quiet side street that, we used to close off for hockey games kind of street is now an arterial road, and people are speeding down it. It's pretty frightening, and it needs extra attention. This happened almost overnight. Even though it's been in the plans, it's hard to believe what happens until you see it. And I have to relay the concern, and people are pretty much freaking out. So no matter how much you tell them, it's going to be for another year. So I have to pass that on. Unlike the East and the South, this is in people's backyards. This is a very impactful, which will be great when it's finished, because it'll be the most convenient part of the Stage 2. It's in communities, but right now the construction is impacting them a lot, and I can't emphasize enough the safety concerns. Can we do more on Richmond, for the Richmond Road complete streets, to help out for pedestrian safety? There's so much confusion. Drivers, they go into automatic and they're not paying attention. They go down sometimes the wrong way down a street. We've had numerous reports of that. So people are, residents, particularly older adults, are very, very concerned. I also have to speak out on behalf of the small businesses at 911 Richmond Road who have suffered a great deal and may lose their business due to the impact of the complete street. They didn't feel they got enough notice ahead of time, and they have been, they're quite scared. It's cutting them off, despite some of the help. But is there anything more we can do for these businesses?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. And, we want to convey our gratitude to your office for the opportunity to use some of these forums to reach out to residents in a very direct way, in a very personal way, so that we can, as much as possible, share information in a timely way and open up two-way dialogue. Just in terms of what we can do with the businesses, this is under discussion on a regular basis within our office and also with the East-West constructors. in terms of what we can do for the local businesses. We try and focus on, maintaining parking where we can, maintaining access where we can, ensuring that pedestrians have safe and secure access to the businesses. We try and ensure that signage is correct. And as much as possible, protect the access to the businesses. And we will continue to have the dialogue. And if there's things that we need to improve upon, then, we're here to listen to ideas about, recommendations and better ways of providing that access and providing information. But we're happy to work with your office and with the people who are on the ground as much as we can.
I appreciate it. It's been a tough one. We literally have people crying and it's just scaring them. And it's very hard to give dates. I think just describing when the Richmond Road component of the complete street will be done. When the presentation was given, they talked about it all being over by 2027. Well, that just, that's not exactly what they're worried about. It's the Richmond Road component. And I understand, I just want to make sure that that's the goal, is to finish it by the end of next year, 2025. So we just have to keep emphasizing that, but that still could mean a number of small businesses going under. There's a lot of pressure right now. Small businesses suffer not just from the stage 2, but also, well, it's kind of the domino effect, because there's probably pressure that there'll be developers coming and there'll be buildings being built, and it's going to be changed neighborhood. So lots have changed, and the residents are passing on their concerns. They're supporting the small business. I'm asking all of us to support those small businesses, because it's unlike other projects that we've had in the city. We know about the Elgin Street, about the Rideau Streets, the Montreal roads. This was very little notice for a project of this scale, because of the turnaround, because of the decision to bring it forward. I mean, it's a good thing to bring it forward in terms of having it done before the stage 2 LRT completion, but that was the impact, and they are the collateral. So I just want to make sure that we get that and know the effects that it has on communities. I'm trying to be Pollyanna to everybody, this is going to be great. I can't wait for Trillium to be open. But so we need some positive signs, but 5 years of construction has been hard on communities. So I have to pass that on. So, and again, I appreciate the team. We'll probably do another open house later, because I think it's really important for people to come out in person and just talk one-on-one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Gower.
Thanks. Thank you for the update.
Just asked. She's got a parent teacher.
Councillor Dudas, you would like to go ahead of Councillor Gower?
These two amazing gentlemen, colleagues of mine, wouldn't mind me just providing a quick comment. I have to do a parent-teacher interview in about 5 minutes. So is that okay?
Well, even if Councillor Gower said no, I would still let you. It's a parent-teacher interview.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. I just want to jump in, and actually this is a perfect segue coming after Councillor Kavanagh, because to Councillor Kavanagh's point, this construction, while it will bring immense benefits with the LRT and its extension, has had, I would love to say, destructive impacts on residential communities. Convent Glen, Orleans Wood is in the East End, and while I completely understand what Councillor Kavanagh said about residential impacts, these two communities are also undergoing this extreme amount of construction. And just when they thought that, the stations were the only impact they're going to have, we get a roundabout dropped in our lap at the 11th hour that has also impacted not only the motorists, but the schools, and had major impacts. I don't really have a question. What I have is I'm going to implore OC TRANSPO and all of the construction crews to be as understanding and as accommodating to our communities as possible. This is so impactful for our quality of life in the East End, and particularly Convent Glen, Orleans Wood. And the way that it's not just driving around, it's literally how you walk. It's, slipping on gravel. It's trying to bike to where you're trying to go. It's taking transit to get there. The detours are immense. The closures of the 174 last weekend, there was minor lane closures. And then it ended up being a huge pileup in the East End on a Saturday morning when there shouldn't have been any traffic at all. And all of that then flows into residential communities. Grey Nuns, Fortune Drive, Vineyard, Voyager, all of these streets are now having massive amounts of traffic flow on what are quiet residential streets. So I understand, and Councillor Tierley mentioned this, we are going to continue to have these conversations with you guys, but at the end of the day, anything that can be done to limit the impact of this construction on my community, on the West End communities, on the South End communities, like this is just such a massive amount of construction for such a long duration. And now we're understanding too that it's not going to end when the station's open and the extension opens. It's going to end after that. So we're going to have a lot of compromise and collaboration between OC TRANSPO, the construction crews, and my community, and Councillor Tierney's and Lulof's and Kavanaugh's and the entirety of the councillors that represent these impacted wards, because this is just a lot. So I leave that there. Thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to jump the queue. Thank you, Chair Curry, for allowing me to do that. I just had to share the duress that my community's been going through with staff.
All right, thank you. Good luck with that interview. Councillor Gower.
Thanks. Okay, just wanted to ask if there were any additional details you can provide about the Kitchissippi Mecan. I'm concerned about the impact on buses that use it as part of the transit way. In particular, heading eastbound in the morning, there's quite a choke point where the lanes go from 2 to 1. What's the current timeline to have that reopened to 2 lanes in each direction?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. Can we provide a sort of a fulsome response by early next week? And the question is over what look ahead, just generally speaking, or is there a certain area or time period?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. What's the timeline for reopening to 2 lanes from the current one? Yeah.
Perfect. Understood. We'll take that back. We'll get back to you shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Leeper.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've got, I think, just 2 questions. The first is with respect to Westboro Station and the fact that we don't have rail going through it. That's obviously going to be one of the key barriers to getting trains going from end to end. When do you expect rail and catenary to be in Westboro Station?
Thank you for the question. Q1 is when we're looking to pull the rail through there. So that location, is you're probably aware, is we have a twin cell box culvert underneath that goes to a single cell. So we're working on a rehabilitation of that. Following that, then we're going to start putting the rail components in it. It also acts as our basically travel way for equipment to come down to continue some of the works in that area. But ultimately, to answer your question, Q1, we're looking to pull that rail through in Westboro Station. That's the last component of rail to be installed.
Okay. No,
Can I just provide some supplementary information to that? So in terms of the connectivity between the West End and the East End, so that there's a number of pieces. We need the track, which is important. We need the OCS. And so we're looking at the summer of next year before we're able to run a train from the East End all the way through Westboro Station and out to the west. So, to repeat the comments earlier on about the importance of the vehicles that we've moved out to the West End, to the LMSF, those 3 vehicles will, continue to assist with the testing and commissioning of the track, of the OCS, of the train control system heading east towards Westboro Station.
Sorry, you're going to say?
So just the connectivity piece is the summer of next year.
Okay. So by the time those vehicles that are currently at the LMSF are ready to start getting all the way through to Kitchissippi, Westboro should be able to accommodate them as well all the way through Tunney's pasture.
That's correct.
Okay. We're obviously excited to see some trains moving back and forth there. And then the second one, I revisited the inquiry action plan. You addressed a bit of lines 2 and 4 this morning, so I just wanted to raise one of the inquiry action plan and find out how we're doing on that. The recommendation number 71. Let me make sure I've got the, yep. Recommendation number 71, on a new system or where the maintainers are new to the system, the public entity must allow for a learning curve and avoid putting undue pressure on the maintainers by, for example, generating unnecessary or overly voluminous work orders for the purposes of quote unquote testing the system. To which OC TRANSPO has said, or I guess the city has said, transit services will work with RTG and TNext as substantial completion approaches on the 3 stage 2 extensions to ensure there is a clear understanding between all parties as to which items will be managed under the minors deficiencies list in progress and which will be managed as work orders following substantial completion. I just wanted to make sure I understood exactly what substantial completion means. Does that mean there are no minor deficiencies remaining? And I don't want to steal too much thunder from our next meeting, obviously, but
okay, thank you for the questions. So in terms of substantial completion, what we are saying effectively is that the system is ready for the use and enjoyment of the owner, for the OC TRANSPO. There are minor deficiencies, and that is allowed for in the contract, but those minor deficiencies do not distract from the use and enjoyment of the facility. So in terms of the question of how we addressed that recommendation from the public inquiry, we have just achieved substantial completion on the Trillium line, and there has been a clear switch in the way that the teams are handling ongoing work. So before substantial completion, the Transit Next had jurisdiction over the line, and they had control over the way that work was undertaken within the line, the deficiencies that were remaining at the station and within the guideway. Now that we have switched and we've gone past substantial completion, the jurisdiction is with OC TRANSPO. So it's now OC TRANSPO that's running the Transit Operations Control Center. We work very closely. We've initiated the daily meetings with the maintenance team, and there is a maintenance planning exercise that happens on a daily basis with a 3-week look ahead. And any work that is required by any of the contractors or subcontractors, that now goes through that system. And it's a different way of managing the work. The work is received by transit maintenance that is responsible for the work that is taking place within the line. It's received through them as a work order, but they then subsequently distribute that between their constructor, because it may be still a construction issue, or it could be a maintenance issue, which they would then take responsibility for. So the concern that was expressed at the public inquiry was in relation to the period during trial running and shortly after trial running, when RTG was inundated with many work orders, and the system struggled in terms of the system itself, the software itself, but also the ability of the staff within that group to stay on top of all those work orders. We're not in that situation now with Transit Next. We feel like
that was a big sore point, obviously, with our partners moving.
J'aimerais rajouter un point qui est important ici aussi.
I'd like to add an important point. It's the cooperation here. Cooperation between Transit Next and OC is superb, and that helps a lot. We're not in a situation where there are frictions or it's not my fault, it's your fault. We're really now completely cooperating, and so far we saw that it gave us excellent results, be it the works, the trial running, the substantial completion. There's no triage in the meetings. Everybody's very respectful. It's very, very important. Everybody has a very clear objective, is to deliver an excellent project, and that's what we're focused on. So I'd say you can sleep tight, because the key here, everybody knows what they have to do, and the key is to work together, and that's exactly what we're doing. Thank you. And you answered my question, really.
Je suis intéressé s'il y a une friction encore entre les partenaires.
I wanted to know if there was still some friction between the partners. It doesn't appear to, so it's excellent indeed. And if I understood Mr. Holder's answer, there's still some work orders. Are there a lot of work orders pending? Should we wait till the next meeting to ask these questions? Well, there's a difference. The minor deficiencies is when there are trees to be planted or paint. Yeah. Work order is that when we start the launching, if there's a door that's defective, we'll have to send a work order so that they come and fix the door. In the past, if there was just a little scratch or a little sticker that shouldn't have been there, instead of simply removing it, we would fill a work order in the system. So the system was overloaded with work orders. Some were important, others were not. So the cooperation today that we have allows us to understand each other on what has to go in the system. If there's dust somewhere, you don't need to call anyone to say, come and see the dust. We just remove it. That's it. That's how we're working now. Okay, excellent. That's all for my questions.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you very much. And I believe Kitchissippi Mekong is going to be fully both lanes by the end of next year. We had a slideshow, so at our open house. So you can double check that. I can send you the slideshow because that's a big question, of course, from anybody in the West End, because the traffic jams are pretty bad and it affects the OC TRANSPO service. So it has a domino effect on the bus service, and I'm sure Pat knows that. While we're here, I'm getting more messages from small businesses concerned about going out of business. They need special attention. So I'm asking for help. The other thing is safety of pedestrians, particularly in that Byron corridor near the Tim Hortons around Park Place. If we can have special attention for pedestrian safety, making sure that their safety is prioritized because this has all happened so quickly and it's pretty erratic. We have a lot of seniors in that area. So can I get a commitment that we'll look into that further? And by the way, the team is great, but I just want to get some extra help.
I can confirm that we'll provide some extra attention to the pedestrians in that area to make sure that the access is clear and safe and available for people with accessibility needs as well as the whole population.
Much appreciated. At one time, Byron didn't even have sidewalks. They were put in very quickly just before stage 2. And now that's all they have. So people used to walk on the roads because there was no traffic at all. So it's a huge jarring change. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just have a very quick question before I go to Councillor Gower. The last year, I think everything went well, but the year before, Magic of Lights at Wesley Clover, we were using March Road for Corkstown, that Corkstown strip between March and Moody. There was sort of a rejigging of the entire route for people to get into the Magic of Lights show. Is that something, when you were mentioning Corkstown, is that going to be a problem this year for that Christmas event?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. We'll take that back to confirm.
Okay, great. I remember last time when it meant people had to come off of March Road, there was some angst. So if
we coordinated in advance with your office, I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If you can follow up, communication, I think, was all that was required last time and this time. Councillor Kavanaugh, did you have any comment on that at all?
Yeah. Last year, they had only one-way traffic on Corkstown. That was the reason. This it's now two-way traffic, so it should be, I'm answering the traffic questions. This is hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. When I heard your update on Corkstown, I thought, oh, I wonder if that's going to affect anybody right now, but maybe it won't be till January when it's all over. All right, Councillor Gower.
Thank you. I wanted to thank staff for the updates today and the regular updates. I know there's always frustration that there's not a specific date, but I think compared to our friends in Toronto and how they approach communication around the opening of their train, the progress of their train projects, I think Ottawa's done an excellent job in providing the parameters, the risk, the progress month by month. So thank you for these updates. They're helpful. And the other one is I totally understand where my colleagues are coming from on construction impact. And I think it's important that we look at every way possible to mitigate construction impacts and communicate and make sure everyone's safe. But I also think it's important to always think of the big picture, that what your team is working on is the most transformational project our city has ever had. It is going to move millions of people over the coming decades. It's transforming how our city gets around the city. It's providing more opportunities for housing. What you're doing is incredibly important. We're in a little bit of very short-term pain for something that's going to absolutely transform our city. So thank you for everything your team is doing. Thanks, Chair.
Well said, Councillor and Chair Gower. So we just have a motion here that we have to approve. So the motion is that the Light Rail Subcommittee receive this report for information. Is this item received? Received. All right. So we don't have any in-camera items that I know of. We don't have any notices of motion unless anyone has one. No. No inquiries that I have been told about. Other business? No. So I just want to remind everyone that about that technical briefing on December 6th. So, make sure you're there. Should be very exciting and interesting. And then our next meeting will be determined after midterm governance, determining, what will happen with this committee, how often it will meet, if it's still in existence. So there isn't an exact date, but we will stay tuned on that. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Sure.